YouTube, it's Tone. I'm back with another one for you today. So right here, we're just gonna touch a little bit on some of the foundational principles of what of how to deal with these entities. They're corporate entities ultimately. One of the main things in the whole universe in general, not just the realm that we live in, is contracts. Um, Consensual contracts at that, not just unilateral contracts where one party is making all the fucking rules and somebody else has to just follow them. That shit doesn't work like that. So what you have to understand is that a lot of things that have been going on in your life are because of your consent in one way or another. Whether it's even you thinking that you can just ignore a certain thing and it'll just disappear, it doesn't work like that. Because by being silent, you actually acquiesce, meaning that you welcome the contract. So unless you stand up and say, no, that shit is not happening, then that shit is happening, right? So they give you an opportunity, and to remain in honor, you kind of have an obligation in the whole contract scheme of things, unless you give them a contract and say you're not fucking with them, but it still has to be a contract in place either way, right? We get tricked into it initially when we're born. There's a contract signed by our mothers, who are the informants, right? And then they team up with whoever pulled you out of the womb, and then they created a document and put you into a contract. And then you, not knowing any better, have been trying to fucking defend and live up to these so-called contracts, which are not legally binding, mind you, because you cannot be placed into a contract when you're a minor like that. It doesn't work like that. You have to be old enough to make a cognizant choice to enter into a contract, especially with these fucking demons, these fucking demonic ass beings and shit. That you give them an inch. Even demons, man, they don't come into your house unless you fucking welcome them. They knock on the door, man. They need your consent, all right? So do not consent. Really that simple. So let's go ahead and get into. So this is just a single page. Trying to keep in line with the fucking attention spans of the youth today, which is like a two to 6 minute 2 to 6 minute fucking attention span. All right, so right here you see preface. Understand your road to freedom. Every phase of our lives are in commerce. You need your strongman to operate in commerce. Your strongman has a license to operate in commerce. That's the all capital letter name. That's your conduit. That's your monopoly piece, right? It's not you. So the weird part is that when you go to court, you have to literally speak. If you decide to go to court, you have to speak in the third person when making reference to this estate. In order to remain in honor, you can't accept the liability for this thing. You're speaking as an authorized representative, if you will. I mean, there's a bunch of ways to go about it. Appearance is going to be special. It's not going to be a general appearance ever. It's just going to be to settle the fucking account and move on. Settlement and closure. All right, so here, strongman has a license to operate in commerce. You have a driver's license, marriage license, a handgun license, occupational license, building permits. A license is as good as you want it to be by your permission. So when there is a fine, and if you ever want to exit a contract, I have a video here, affidavit of rescission. That shit is fucking gold. All right, check that out. Check that out. You don't always have to go in there and argue with people. It's like when you walk in the house and your girl got a face, you don't even have to talk to her. You know what I'm saying? So like, hey, look, I'm gonna go ahead and call it quits. This shit ain't working for me. The whole goal of the governmental entities in general is for your benefit. So if at any point you feel that they are benefiting more than you, then they're taking advantage of you. Really that simple. So what do we got here? So when there is a fine for misuse of your license, you need to learn how to then switch from the straw man to the living soul with the right to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. We all have that. We all have a right to live happily and not have to worry and not be scared of these fucking people, right? Because fear is not even real. When you're scared of something, you're worrying about something that has not happened yet. And then at that time, what you're gonna do is manifest it. You're gonna manifest that negativity, right? I mean, the universe doesn't understand good or bad or anything like that. That shit doesn't even fucking exist. That only exists in your mind. There's things that happen, and this is how you feel about it. Really that simple. So the strawman is a transmitting utility that allows you to operate in commerce with a license to conduct your commercial affairs. Anyone operating in commerce without a license is committing a commercial crime. You and I need to learn how to become a representative or agent for the strawman and conduct all of his or her commercial affairs without getting involved. All crimes are commercial, and so you have to learn how to sign without the liability. So get in the habit of putting UCC 1-308 or reservation of rights or things of that nature. Get familiar. Actually, I'll just do a video on this, man. It's an awesome little pamphlet or book, if you will, out there. What's it called? Creditors and their bonds and things like that. I mean, you become familiar with that, you're gonna understand exactly what it is and how to enter into a contract without liability, without you being personally liable or being the surety for the straw man, right? So what do we got? So all crimes are commercial. All crimes are commercial, by the way. Remember that. These people are using copywritten codes and statutes, which are not real laws. They're corporate policy. It doesn't fucking apply to you unless you start arguing with them motherfuckers like it does fucking apply to you. Because then guess what? It does. Because then it does. All crimes are commercial and are then regulated by commercial courts. Commercial crimes are murder. Look at that. Commercial crimes are murder. Stealing, dealing in illegal drugs, prostitution, practicing law, or making a legal determination without the permission or consent by assent of any party to a contract. Shit is crazy. All commerce is ruled by contracts. All courts, tribunals are ruled by contracts. Absent of contracts, the court tribunal will proceed to write a contract under cause or case number. Will the defendant rise? And then chances are we've been programmed to stand and rise, so people will stand and rise. You never stand in their fucking courtrooms. And you don't have to be disrespectful about it. You can wait in the hall and tell them to call you in when they're fucking ready to see you, which will usually be when there's nobody else in that motherfucker. So this is the signature for the contract. How do you plead? This is the giving of the subject matter jurisdiction. Once you plead out, they automatically have subject matter jurisdiction, right? And becomes part of the consideration for the contract. All of the arguments are the offer for the contract, and the judgment is the acceptance for the contract. The court takes a complaint, turns it into a charge, a commercial charge against the straw man, all caps, tries him or her on the charge, and then a judgment is rendered, which is a civil action, a claim, and this must then be accepted by the living soul. You know, when they pull you up after they give you their fucking little spiel and they're like, oh, do you feel like you represented properly? You feel like you got a good deal? You didn't get a good deal. The fucking lawyer is trained to be a piece of shit and tell you all the worst case scenario shit that would never fucking happen to you in order to get you to play out to some fucking nonsense. And we're like, oh, look, you could have got fucking 15 years for this fucking ounce of coke, but hey, look, I got you down to fucking 2 years, fucking $50,000 fine and 10 years of fucking probation, man. You got an awesome deal. So when you walk up to the court or the judge and he's like, do you feel like you got a good deal? Well, compared to what this fucking lying piece of shit told me, yeah, I think I got a good deal. But in the grand scheme of things, did I get a good deal? Absolutely not, bro. How the fuck would you motherfuckers like that deal? Would you motherfuckers like that deal? You know what I'm saying? So, and that's what it is, man. It's all just a bunch of fuckery. So you really have to understand who it is that you are and who it is that these people are not, right? So when you accept the judgment in two ways, by silence and signing the judgment, or by appealing it to a higher court, a third party, who will then agree with the judgment, why would you argue law, codes, rules, regulations, procedures, statutes when the contract is the law in your case, right? So unless you wrote the contract and they have a wedding signature proving that you chose to willfully engage in a contract with them, then there is no contract. So you can go ahead and ask them to provide proof of that contract in wet ink if they believe that they have any jurisdiction. So the redemption process or acceptance for value can then authorize the payment for the judgment. The judgment should be signed by the court clerk, for they are the court. In most cases, the judge will sign the judgment hoping that you will accept the contract by one of the above two ways, by silence or signature or appeal to a third party. So even when you ask for a lawyer and things like that too, you know, I mean, there's different ways to go about that. You know, I'm not going to give you legal advice and shit, but, you know, I wouldn't do it. You know, even though some of them are really good people, they still have an obligation to the bar and the state, and that's who they fucking work for. So it isn't ever that if there was a real remedy that they could give it to you, because then they would lose their job. Another way is a rejection of contracts allowed under the Truth in Lending, and when the contract is about mortgages, it comes under Regulation Z and the Truth in Lending. Always remember, everything is in commerce and is ruled by contracts. Code, rules, regulations, procedures, statutes apply only to the corporation that they were written for. You do not argue codes, rules, regulations, statutes, and commerce. You argue contracts. If there is no contract, there is no case. There is no contract with a policeman, government official, federal agent, or federal agency. Even with a license, a government or corporation is a fiction and cannot sign a contract and force one unless you enter their organization or corporation as an employee and argue their codes, rules, regulations, procedures, where they then use to enforce a contract. Read the book 5 times, then write your questions down, and I guess call. But you're not fucking calling me. But that's what the book says. So you guys want to get in the habit of reading these books. There's a bunch of series versions of these books, and some of them kind of just run through the same thing that they talk about over and over again. But it's good to rehash certain topics and things like that. So you're never gonna lose by reading this book multiple times. And it's probably 600-700 pages. There might be 6 or 7 of these books that might run $400 or $500. But what is your freedom worth to you? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, if you look around, you could probably find these online and things like that too. But support the author and things like that, and what you give out, you get back 10 times fold. So just know that whatever you invest in yourself, right? And look at it that way. Don't look at it like you're giving somebody money. Look like you're giving it to your fucking self. Because you are. And there's no better gift than knowledge than you can give to your fucking self. I tell you that. So that's what I got for you for now, until we meet again.